You know, we use it probably dozens of times a day, but have you ever really stopped to think about how Google search actually works? I mean, really works. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the incredible journey that happens behind the scenes every single time you hit search. It really does feel like magic, doesn't it? You type in a question, and before you can even blink, boom, millions of answers. How is that even possible? What on earth is happening in that tiny fraction of a second? Okay, so it's not actual magic, but it is an absolutely incredible system. And I think the best way to really get our heads around it is to follow the journey of just one single web page, from the moment it gets created all the way to the moment it shows up in your search results. And here's the first big secret, the first thing you have to understand. This whole journey doesn't even start when you type something into the search bar. Nope. It starts way, way before that, with Google's massive, non-stop mission to map the entire internet. Think about it. Before Google can search the web for you, it has to know what's even on the web in the first place. It needs a list, right? Kind of like a master address book for every single web page that exists out there. And that address book, well, it's called the URL server. You can think of it as the starting gate for everything. Its whole job is to constantly grab new web page addresses, clean up the list by tossing out any duplicates, and then line them all up in a queue, just waiting for the next step. So a web page's address is officially in the queue. What happens next? Well, Google has to actually send someone out to visit that address and see what's there. This is the first active step in the whole process. It's called crawling. So the URL server grabs a batch of addresses and hands them over to this army of little automated programs. We call them crawlers, or the famous Googlebot. Now, a Googlebot has one job, and one job only. Visit an address and download a full copy of the page, the text, the code, everything. It's just there to fetch the raw data package. This slide just nails the analogy. The crawler is simply a courier. That's it. It doesn't read the page, it doesn't try to understand the content, it makes zero judgments. Its only mission is to pick up the package, that raw web page data, and bring it back to Google's servers. All right, so the courier is back with the package. Now what? Well, it has to be logged, it has to be stored, and then finally, somebody's got to open it up and figure out what in the world is inside. So first up, a system called the store server grabs that downloaded page, squishes it down to save space, and then files it away in this place called the repository. And the repository is exactly what it sounds like, a gigantic digital warehouse that holds a copy of pretty much every page Google has ever found. It's like a backup of the entire internet. So with the page safely stored away, the real analysis finally begins. The data gets sent over to the indexer. And if the crawler was our courier, then the indexer, well, the indexer is the master librarian of this whole operation. Its job is to actually read and organize what's inside the package. The indexer is a master multitasker. It does two hugely important things at the same time. On one hand, as you see here, it's analyzing the content. It breaks the whole page down into individual words, and it makes notes about things like, is this word in a big headline? At the exact same time, it pulls out every single link on that page. And those new links, they get sent all the way back to the beginning, to the URL server, to be added to the queue to be crawled later. And that is the engine that built the web as we know it. It's this amazing self-powering cycle of discovery, where every page you find helps you find even more pages. Okay, so our librarian has read the page. It knows every word on it. But how do you organize billions of pages so that you can find one specific word in literally a millisecond? This right here is where the true genius of Google's system really shines. So at first, the system builds what we call a forward index. It's pretty simple. It's just a list organized by the page. Page 123 contains these words. Page 124 contains these other words, and so on. But you can probably already see the problem, right? If you wanted to find every page that mentioned the word award, you'd have to read the entry for every single page on the entire internet. It would be unbelievably slow. Scanning every page just isn't going to work. So the engineers at Google came up with this brilliant solution. Just like the slide says, they reverse it. A system they call the sorter takes that super slow page-by-page index and completely flips it on its head. And this right here is the secret sauce. This is what makes Google feel like magic. The inverted index isn't organized by page, it's organized by the word. It's just like the index at the back of a textbook. You don't read the whole book to find a key term, right? No, you just flip to the index, look up the term, and it tells you exactly what pages it's on. This is what makes Google so incredibly, unbelievably fast. So, we've seen this gigantic amount of prep work that happens behind the scenes. The entire internet has been crawled, stored, and perfectly indexed. So now we get to the final step, the moment it all comes together. You show up and type in your search. And this is how it all culminates. The second you hit search, Google zips over to that lightning-fast inverted index and instantly finds every single page that has your words on it. But that could still be millions of pages. So then comes the final crucial step, ranking. Super complex algorithms look at hundreds of different signals, things like the page's authority and how many other good pages link to it, to sort that huge list by relevance. And just like that, the final ordered results land on your screen. So the next time you see that little search bar, maybe you'll see it a little differently. Not as some kind of magic box, but as the final step in this amazing journey. A journey that involves a courier fetching the data, a librarian meticulously organizing it, and a ranker sorting it all just for you. All in the blink of an eye.